The sky was dark and heavy with clouds as the city slowly went to sleep. People in their homes were unaware that this night would change everything. Far above the tall buildings, something strange was moving silently. No one saw it at first. But in a small lab on the edge of the city, a young scientist named Sarah was watching the sky carefully. She had been waiting for this moment for a long time. For years, she had warned others about the strange signals coming from space, but most people ignored her. They said she was just imagining things. Tonight she knew those signals meant something more. They were not just signals, they were a warning. Sarah looked at the screen in front of her. Numbers and strange patterns flickered on the monitor. The signals were getting stronger, closer. Suddenly a loud noise broke the quiet. Outside the window, bright lights appeared. Giant shapes moved in the sky, dark and heavy. Sarah's heart beat faster. The invasion had begun. The city streets filled with chaos quickly. People ran out of their homes, shouting and scared. Cars honked loudly as drivers tried to escape. The air smelled like smoke and fear. Alien ships hovered above, shining bright beams of light that scanned everything below. The ships were enormous, with sharp edges and strange shapes. They looked nothing like anything humans had seen before. They moved with a strange rhythm, not like any plane or rocket. It was clear these creatures were powerful and dangerous. Sarah grabbed her bag and ran out of the lab. She had to get to the secret underground bunker where her team had hidden something important, a weapon that might save humanity. She knew the alien ships had one goal: to take control of Earth. No one knew why the aliens had come or what they wanted, but it was clear they did not want peace. The weapon in the bunker was humanity's last hope, but time was running out. As she ran through the empty streets, Sarah saw broken windows and fires burning in some buildings. People were crying and helping each other. Soldiers tried to organize groups to fight back, but they were not prepared for this kind of enemy. The aliens were too strong. Sarah felt scared, but she also felt a strong need to fight for her home. She reached the entrance to the underground bunker, a heavy metal door hidden behind an old warehouse. With shaking hands, she punched the security code and the door slowly opened with a loud hiss. Inside, it was dark and cold. Sarah turned on her flashlight and moved quickly. The bunker was filled with machines and strange devices, all built to help fight the alien threat. At the center was a small box, glowing softly with blue light. This was the weapon, a device that could send a powerful signal to disrupt the alien ship's technology. Sarah knew she had to activate the weapon, but it needed power. The main generator was in another room, and it had been damaged by the first alien attack. She moved faster, knowing every second counted. Suddenly, she heard a loud noise above ground. The alien ships were attacking the city harder. Explosions shook the bunker walls. Sarah took a deep breath and focused. She had to fix the generator. In the generator room, wires were broken and sparks flew from the machines. Sarah pulled out her tools and began repairing the damage. Her hands were steady despite the danger. She thought about her family, her friends, and everyone who was counting on her. She could not fail. After minutes, that felt like hours, the generator hummed to life. The blue light on the weapon grew brighter. The device was ready. But before she could finish, the light suddenly went out. The bunker was plunged into darkness. Sarah's heart jumped. The aliens must have cut the power to stop her. She fumbled for her flashlight and turned it on. A shadow moved at the entrance of the bunker. Sarah's breath caught. Someone was coming in. She prepared herself, holding a small metal rod for defense. The door opened slowly and a man in a black uniform stepped inside. He looked tired and scared, but also determined. "Sarah," he said quietly, "we need to move. The aliens are sending troops underground. This bunker won't be safe for long." Sarah nodded. She turned off the weapon's power to keep it hidden. They had no time to use it now. The man's name was Mark, a soldier who had been fighting the alien forces on the surface. He had risked his life to find Sarah and warn her. Together, they started moving through the dark tunnels, searching for a safer place. Outside, the city was falling apart. Alien ships flew low, capturing everything in their path. Fires burned everywhere, and the sky was filled with smoke. But deep underground, Sarah and Mark carried hope. They had a secret weapon that might change everything, but first they had to survive. As they walked deeper into the tunnels, Sarah wondered how many more surprises the aliens had. She knew the battle for Earth was only beginning. The humans had never faced anything like this before. The aliens were strong, fast, and smart. But Sarah believed in one thing: humanity's courage. No matter what happened next, Sarah was ready to fight. The future of the world depended on it. Sarah and Mark moved quietly through the dark tunnels beneath the city. The only sound was their footsteps echoing against cold metal walls. Above ground, the world was burning, but down here, it was silent. Too silent. Sarah's mind raced, with questions. How many alien soldiers were already underground? How long would their secret weapon last if the aliens found them? Mark stopped suddenly and listened. "I heard something," he whispered. Sarah tightened her grip on the metal rod she carried. They waited, holding their breath. From the shadows, a small group of people appeared. They looked tired and dirty, but relief showed on their faces when they saw Sarah and Mark. "We're survivors," one of them said quickly. "We escaped the city. The aliens are hunting anyone who resists. They want to find that weapon." Sarah's heart pounded. The secret weapon was still their best chance. If the aliens captured it, humanity's hope would be lost. She asked, "How many of you are there? And what about the soldiers?" "Only a few dozen left," the leader replied. "Most soldiers fought bravely, but we lost contact with command. We don't know if anyone else is alive." Sarah felt a heavy weight settle inside her. The fight was worse than she had imagined. But she also felt a strange strength. These people had not given up. Neither would she. Mark looked around and said, "We need to move deeper into the tunnels. The aliens are searching for us everywhere. If they find us here, it's the end." As the group moved forward, Sarah thought about the weapon again. It was powerful, yes, but they didn't know exactly how it worked. The device sent a special signal that could disrupt alien technology, but no one had tested it on a large scale. It was risky. If they used it too soon, they might lose their only advantage. If they waited too long, it might be too late. Suddenly, a loud rumble shook the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling. Sarah's heart jumped. "Aliens," Mark said, grimly. "They're close." The survivors hurried faster, but the tunnels were narrow and confusing. They came to a fork in the path. Mark pointed left. "This way. It leads to the old subway system. It's less damage there." The group moved down the dark corridor, the air growing colder. Sarah noticed strange markings on the walls. They were not human. Strange symbols glowing faintly covered the metal surfaces. She reached out and touched one. The light pulsed under her fingers. It felt alive. Mark frowned. "These are alien signs. They must have been here before us." Sarah's mind raced. Could the aliens have planned this attack for a long time? Were there more dangers hidden underground? She shivered, but kept moving. After walking for what felt like hours, they reached a large room. It was an old subway station, abandoned and covered in dust. Here the group stopped to rest. Sarah looked at the tired faces around her. Fear and hope mixed in their eyes. "We can't stay long," Mark said. "The aliens will find us if we don't keep moving." Sarah nodded. She took a deep breath and stood up. "We need a plan. We can't just run forever. We have to fight back." One of the survivors, an older man with a calm voice, spoke up. "What can we do? They have ships and weapons we don't understand." Sarah looked at the glowing weapon in her bag. "There's something we can try, a signal that can disable their technology, but I need time to prepare it." Mark shook his head. "We don't have much time. If the aliens discover this place, they'll attack hard." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "Then we fight smart. We use the tunnels, the darkness, and the surprise." The group began making plans. Sarah worked on the device, carefully adjusting wires and settings. Every minute was precious. Outside, the distant sound of explosions reminded them that the battle for Earth was far from over. Suddenly, the ground trembled again. This time it was closer. The group froze. Through the tunnel entrance, a group of alien soldiers appeared. Their armor was shiny and strange, with glowing eyes that scanned the darkness. Sarah's heart raced. The moment of danger had come. Humans hid in the shadows, holding their breath. Mark whispered, "Get ready." The alien soldiers moved slowly, their weapons glowing softly. Sarah's fingers tightened on the weapon's controls. This was the first real test. Then, without warning, a bright pulse shot from the device. The alien soldiers stopped, their eyes flickering. Their weapons went silent. One by one, they collapsed, unconscious but unharmed. The survivors gasped in surprise and hope. Sarah smiled for the first time since the invasion began. The weapon worked, but there was no time to celebrate. More alien forces were coming. Sarah knew this was only the beginning of a long and dangerous fight. Humanity's last stand had truly begun. After the alien soldiers collapsed, Sarah and the survivors didn't wait a moment. They moved quickly through the dark subway tunnels, their footsteps echoing softly. Every second counted. The pulse from the weapon had stopped the small group of aliens, but Sarah knew more would come. The aliens would soon figure out what had happened. Mark led the way, holding a flashlight that barely cut through the darkness. Sarah stayed close, carrying the weapon carefully. The group was quiet, but alert. Every shadow seemed to hide danger. Sarah's mind was busy with questions. How far could the weapon's signal reach? Could it stop an entire army of aliens? They needed more time to find out. The old subway tunnels twisted and turned, filled with debris and broken signs. Occasionally they heard distant noises, metal, scraping, faint voices, or low rumbling. The city above was still burning. The war had spread everywhere, but down here, they had a chance to hide and plan. As they walked, Sarah thought about her family. She hadn't heard from them since the invasion started. The thought made her stomach ache, but she pushed it aside. Now was not the time for fear. Now was the time to fight. Suddenly, Mark stopped. He held up his hand to signal silence. Ahead, in the tunnel, they could see a strange light. It was faint, but different from the cold glow of the alien symbols they had seen before. As they moved closer, Sarah realized it was coming from a group of people, humans, but not like the survivors she knew. The people were wearing strange uniforms covered in dirt and metal plates. They looked like soldiers, but different, stronger, more prepared. Their leader stepped forward and spoke in a low voice. "You're Sarah, the scientist who holds the weapon?" Sarah nodded slowly. "Yes. Who are you?" "We are the Resistance," the leader said. "We have been fighting the aliens for months, hiding in secret bases all over the city. We've heard about your weapon. It could change everything." Sarah felt a surge of hope. Maybe they were not alone after all. "Can you help us?" she asked. The leader smiled slightly. "We already are. Follow us. We have a safe place where you can work on the weapon. But it won't be easy. The aliens are everywhere." The survivors followed the resistant soldiers through a hidden door in the subway wall. It led to a long stairway that climbed upward. The air grew warmer as they moved closer to the surface. When they finally reached the top, they found themselves in an old warehouse, hidden behind fallen buildings. Inside, the warehouse was filled with people, men and women, young and old, all working to build weapons and gather supplies. The room buzzed with quiet energy. Sarah felt a strange mix of fear and hope. The resistance was real, and they were ready to fight. The leader introduced Sarah to a man named Dr. Hayes, a scientist who had been studying the aliens' technology for months. Dr. Hayes examined Sarah's weapon carefully, nodding with approval. "This could be the key to winning the war," he said, "but we need to understand it better." Sarah spent the next hours working with Dr. Hayes and the resistant scientists. They tested the weapon's signal, trying to find ways to make it stronger and reach more aliens. Slowly, they discovered that the device could disrupt alien communication and disable their weapons for a short time. It was not perfect, but it was a start. As the night deepened, the resistance prepared for their next move. They planned to use Sarah's weapon to launch a surprise attack on one of the alien landing sites. If they could destroy the ships on the ground, they might slow the invasion. But Sarah worried. The aliens were smart and fast. What if they were ready for the attack? What if the weapon was not enough? Before she could say anything, an alarm suddenly rang through the warehouse. Red lights flashed. The resistance soldiers grabbed their weapons and moved to the entrances. Mark looked at Sarah. They found us. Outside, the distant roar of alien ships grew louder. The final battle was about to begin. Sarah took a deep breath. She held the weapon tightly. This was humanity's last chance. The red lights flashed faster and louder as the warning echoed through the warehouse. Everyone moved quickly, grabbing weapons and preparing to fight. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. She had never been in a real battle before, but now she had no choice. The aliens were coming, and they would not stop until they found the resistance and the secret weapon. Mark stood beside Sarah, his eyes sharp and ready. "Stay close," he said quietly. "We fight together." Outside, the sky was filled with alien ships. Their shapes were strange and glowing, and they moved like shadows in the night. The ships hovered low over the city ruins, searching for any sign of resistance. Sarah looked through a broken window and saw bright beams scanning the area. If the aliens found the warehouse, everything would be lost. The resistance fighters quickly took their positions around the building. They had rifles, small explosives, and strange gadgets that Sarah had never seen before. The air was tense, filled with fear, but also with determination. Everyone knew this fight could be their last. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. The heavy steps of alien soldiers approached. Doors and walls started to crack. The first wave was here. The battle began with loud explosions and flashes of light. Aliens crashed through the walls, their glowing eyes searching for humans. The resistance fired back, their weapons sparking and echoing in the dark. Sarah stayed close to Mark, trying to keep calm. Amid the chaos, Sarah saw something terrible. One of the soldiers fell, hit by an alien weapon. Sarah's breath caught, but she had no time to stop. She had to protect the weapon, their only hope. Mark shouted, "Sarah! Get to the control room and prepare the device. We'll hold them off." Sarah nodded and ran through the smoke-filled hallways. She could hear the battle raging behind her, the shouts, the explosions, the alien screams. Her hands trembled as she reached the control room. The weapon sat on a metal table, glowing softly. She turned it on and started the activation sequence. Lights flickered on the device, and a low hum filled the room. Sarah's eyes scanned the controls, following the instructions she had learned. With Dr. Hayes. Outside, the fighting grew fiercer. Mark and the fighters fought bravely, but the aliens were too many. Sarah knew the weapon had to work fast. With a deep breath, Sarah pressed the final button. The device sent out a powerful pulse of energy. It spread through the air like invisible waves, reaching the alien soldiers outside. Suddenly, the aliens stopped. Their weapons shut down and their glowing eyes dimmed. Many of them collapsed, unconscious or unable to move. The pulse was working. The resistance fighters cheered and pushed forward, taking advantage of the moment. Mark fought his way inside and joined Sarah. "We did it," he shouted. "The weapon worked." But Sarah shook her head. "It's only the beginning. They will come back stronger. We must be ready." The red lights stopped flashing. The aliens retreated for now, disappearing into the night sky. The warehouse was quiet, but the damage was clear. Walls were broken, fires burned, and many were injured. Sarah looked at the faces of the survivors. They were tired, but hopeful. The weapon had given them a chance to fight back. But Sarah knew the real war was still ahead. She turned to Mark. "We need to find more weapons like this. We need to unite with other groups and plan a real counterattack." Mark nodded. "I'll send out scouts. We'll find others who want to fight." Sarah smiled faintly. For the first time in a long while, she felt hope. The aliens had come to conquer Earth, but humanity was not ready to give up. The last stand had begun, and Sarah was determined to lead it. The morning light barely reached the ruined city as Sarah and Mark prepared to leave the warehouse. The battle had slowed down, but the danger was far from over. The alien ships still hovered in the sky, like dark clouds waiting to strike again. Inside the warehouse, the survivors cleaned wounds and repaired weapons, but no one felt safe. Sarah held the weapon carefully. It was small but powerful, a symbol of hope in a world gone dark. She knew they couldn't win the war with just one device. They needed more. They needed allies. Mark checked a small map. "We have reports of other resistance groups nearby," he said. "Some are hiding in the old tunnels, some in the countryside. If we can find them and share the weapons technology, we might stand a chance." Sarah nodded. "We have to move fast before the aliens strengthen their hold." The group gathered what supplies they could carry. Some stayed behind to protect the warehouse and the injured, while Sarah, Mark, and a few fighters prepared to leave. The air was thick with tension, but also with determination. As they moved through the empty streets, Sarah looked around at the broken buildings and silent cars. The city that once bustled with life was now a ghost town. She thought about the people who had been lost, friends, neighbors, strangers. It made her heart ache, but she pushed the sadness aside. Now was the time to fight for the future. Their first destination was a small resistance camp hidden in the underground tunnels near the city center. The tunnels were dark and cold, filled with narrow passages and strange echoes. Sarah felt uneasy, but she trusted Mark's knowledge of the area. When they reached the camp, they were greeted by a group of fighters. The leader was a woman named Elena, strong and calm, with eyes full of fire. She welcomed Sarah and Mark, listening carefully as they explained the weapon. Elena's group had been fighting the aliens with whatever they could find: old weapons, homemade traps, and courage. She was impressed by the device Sarah carried. "If this works, it could change everything," she said. Together they planned how to build more devices like Sarah's weapon. The resistance scientists began working immediately, using parts scavenged from abandoned technology. It was a difficult task, but hope filled the underground camp. Days passed, and Sarah learned more about the aliens. They were not just soldiers. They were also explorers, searching for something hidden on Earth. Sarah wondered if this secret was why they had come. If she could find out what the aliens wanted, maybe she could find a way to stop them for good. One night, as Sarah worked, late in the lab, Elena brought urgent news. "There's a new alien base being built near the river. It's huge, larger than anything we've seen. They're bringing more troops and weapons." Sarah felt a chill. This base could become the center of the invasion, a place from where the aliens would control everything. "We have to stop them," Sarah said firmly, "before they become too strong." Elena nodded. "We'll need a plan, and more fighters." Sarah looked at the growing team around her. They were scared, tired, but ready. The fight was far from over, but now they had a weapon, allies, and hope. The aliens had risen, and humanity's last stand was beginning. Sarah was ready to lead the fight no matter the cost. The resistance camp buzzed with activity as Sarah and the fighters prepared for their mission. The new alien base near the river was a threat they could not ignore. It was too big, too well guarded, and if the aliens finished building it, their control over the city would be complete. Sarah stood beside Elena and Mark, looking at the rough map spread across the table. The base was heavily defended with patrols and high walls made from strange alien metal. "We need to be smart," Sarah said. "A full attack would be suicide." Elena nodded. "We'll strike at night, use the tunnels to get close, and disable their power supply. Without power, their weapons and communication will fail. Then we can send the signal from the weapon," Mark added. "We'll need to distract their forces, draw some of them away so our team can get inside." Sarah felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. This mission could decide the future of humanity. If they failed, the aliens would crush any remaining resistance. The fighters spent the next day preparing, checking weapons, making plans, and saying quiet goodbyes to those who stayed behind. Sarah couldn't shake the nervous feeling in her stomach, but she knew they had no choice. This was their only chance. When night fell, the group moved silently through the tunnels. The air was cold and damp, and the darkness seemed to press down on them. Sarah held the weapon close, ready to use it at the right moment. As they reached the base's outer walls, Mark signaled for the distraction team to start. Far across the river, explosions erupted. The aliens rushed to respond, leaving their posts. Taking advantage of the chaos, Sarah and a small team slipped through a hidden gate in the tunnel wall. They moved quickly, avoiding patrols and sensors. The alien base was larger than Sarah had imagined. Towers and machines stretched into the night sky, glowing with strange blue light. They found the power room, guarded by 2 alien soldiers. Sarah's heart raced. She whispered to Mark, "On my signal." With a sudden shout, the team attacked. The aliens were caught off guard and quickly overpowered. Sarah entered the control room and began disabling the power systems. Lights flickered and then died. The base fell into darkness. Outside, the aliens panicked as their weapons and ships stopped working. Sarah took a deep breath and activated the weapon. A strong pulse spread through the base, shutting down all alien technology. The resistance fighters cheered. For the first time, they had the upper hand. But the victory was short-lived. Sirens wailed as backup forces arrived. The aliens were not giving up. Sarah and the team prepared for a fight. This was just the beginning of their last stand. The moment the sirens blared, Sarah knew time was running out. The alien backup forces were closing in fast. The darkness inside the base was thick, broken only by the flickering lights from damaged machines. Sarah and the resistance fighters braced themselves for the next wave. Mark grabbed Sarah's arm. "We can't stay here. We need to escape before they surround us." Sarah nodded but glanced back at the weapon. It had done its job, but it was almost out of power. She didn't know if it could hold much longer. The team moved quickly through narrow hallways, dodging alien patrols and avoiding traps. Their breaths came fast, but they kept moving. Every step could bring them face to face with an enemy. Suddenly, the ground shook. A loud, heavy sound echoed through the base. Sarah looked up and saw a huge alien war machine coming toward them. Its glowing eyes scanned the corridors, searching for intruders. Elena shouted, "We have to stop it, or we'll never get out." Sarah's mind raced. The weapon was powerful. But could it stop something this big? She realized they had to be smart. They needed to use the base's own defenses against the machine. Mark pointed to a control panel on the wall. "If we can activate the base's traps, we might slow it down." The team split up. Some worked on hacking the panel, while others prepared to distract the war machine. Sarah stayed close to the weapon, ready to use it one last time. The war machine roared and moved closer. The fighters launched grenades and fired their weapons, drawing its attention. It fired back, causing explosions and shaking the ground. Suddenly, the traps activated. Sharp metal spikes rose from the floor, and energy barriers blocked the machine's path. The war machine struggled, slowing down under the attack. Seizing the moment, Sarah activated the weapon. A bright pulse shot out, hitting the war machine. Its glowing eyes flickered and the machine ground to a halt. The fighters cheered, but Sarah knew the fight wasn't over. The aliens would come back stronger. They needed to keep moving and find safety. The team hurried through the tunnels, finally reaching a secret exit that led outside the base. The night sky was clear, filled with stars, but also with distant alien ships searching for them. Sarah looked at her team. They were tired but alive. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. She held the weapon tightly and said, "We fight for tomorrow. We fight for humanity." And with that, they disappeared into the darkness, ready to face whatever came next. After escaping the alien base, Sarah and the team moved through the quiet forest outside the city. The cool night air was a sharp contrast to the heat and destruction they had just left behind. Every rustle of leaves made them tense, waiting for another attack. But for now, the silence gave them a moment to breathe. Sarah looked around at the small group. Faces were tired and dirty, but their eyes held a new kind of hope. The weapon had worked, and the resistance had struck a powerful blow against the aliens. But Sarah knew this was only the start. Mark pointed to the sky. "The ships are still searching. We need to find a safer place to regroup." Elena agreed. "There's an old military bunker a few miles from here. It's hidden and well protected. If we can get there, we can repair the weapon and plan our next move. The group set off again, moving carefully through the forest. The moonlight helped, but shadows still hid dangers. Sarah kept the weapon close, knowing it was their best chance to fight back. As they walked, Sarah thought about what they had learned. The aliens were not just here to conquer. They were searching for something, on Earth, something important. If she could discover what it was, maybe she could find a way to stop them for good. Suddenly, the group stopped. Ahead, they saw strange lights flickering through the trees. Sarah held up her hand. Wait, it could be aliens, or worse, a trap. Mark crept forward slowly, then turned back with a smile. It's the Resistance, a small group, but they have supplies and medicine. Relief washed over the team. They had found friends, and that meant they weren't alone. The new group led them to the bunker. It was hidden beneath a hill covered with overgrown bushes. Inside, it was cold, but safe. Sarah and the scientists set to work repairing the weapon, using parts scavenged from alien machines. Days passed, and the bunker became a center of hope. More survivors arrived, bringing stories of battles and lost friends. Sarah listened and learned, her determination growing stronger. One night, as she studied the alien symbols from the base, Sarah made a discovery. The symbols matched patterns in ancient Earth ruins, places long forgotten. This is it, she said to Mark and Elena. The aliens are searching for something buried here, something powerful. They knew the next step. To win, they had to find this secret first. The fight for Earth was far from over, but Sarah was ready. She would lead humanity's last stand and uncover the truth behind the alien invasion.